Easy here, hi guys and gals. Well, hope you're well. It is Sunday, but Sunday afternoon, late afternoon actually for over here. It's like 25 past 5. Yeah. Had one of my sons over this afternoon. It was good. The other one, they're off. So the first son of DC and his family are off in Spain. Yeah. Well, actually, Miss my daughter-in-law is Spanish, so they went off to Spain for a little bit of time. Actually, for a week, I think. They went off with a camping car, and they're somewhere near Barcelona, from what I gathered. Yeah, kind of nice. Brought me back to thinking of memories. I saw a video, was it well earlier this afternoon? Dave Nicholson made one on family memories, and maybe he made that yesterday. I'm not quite certain. And I was thinking about that when my son was off, and when I saw Dave's, and it kind of all came together. Uh, Family memories, camping. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but camping was well. We weren't actually people that went off camping all that much, but we always had tents, and we would go. We would. We often would camp actually outside on the grounds, with the neighborhood kids, or um, later on in life, my dad had a place at a campground, and we did camp there, and we had like a tent trailer type of thing, not a camping car, not a nothing fancy, just a tent trailer. But it was nice. It was nice, and we were on Lake Menfra Magog, and my dad had a boat, so we'd go fishing. And if you know Lake Menfra Magog, there's a lot of little islands, and we were more or less quite close, not very far, from one island's called Molson Island. It was owned, maybe still is, by the Molson family. The Molson family, the one that's well known for Molson beer, and we went there. We would go on the island every now and then, just to say that we've been on an island. There was nobody lived on that island, but people would go and sometimes spend a night there. But Lake Menfra Magog was a beautiful lake. There was, like I say, quite a few islands. It was an island that was sorry, it was a lake that was also on the border, or part of the lake was the border between Vermont and Quebec in Canada. So you could go to Newport, Vermont, by the lake. I can't remember which island it was. Was it Providence Island? There was one of those islands that was actually if I'm not wrong, part of the island was in Canada, part was on the States. I might be wrong on that though. Yeah. And in that lake, there was a large bay that was called Sergeant's Bay. And my relatives, so my grandfather's side of the family, were sergeants. So yeah, I mean, from their ancestors, I guess that's where the bay. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly which one, but the name of the bay was related to relatives of mine. Yeah, memories. A lot of good memories actually. Camping was something also that with Mrs. DC we did a lot actually in our earlier days as a couple. Our vacations were always out camping. We would go camping. Either we might go in America, in New York State. Very often, if it was in the States, it would be off very often in New York State. But we would go in eastern eastern Canada, eastern Quebec, up on what is called the North Shore. We'd go fishing. Yeah, we'd go trout fishing. We'd also go into a place where a lot of people would go salmon fishing. We never actually did, and we were not into fly fishing. I wish I had though, because it would look like a lot of fun. But we would usually go to places where you could uh, you could rent or hire a boat. Usually, you would get just the oars, and you'd have to drive up to where, so I'm talking about like an hour's drive or something like that, after you've already driven like 7, 8 hours. You drive like an hour in the woods to get to your lake, and you didn't have the lake for whatever time you had decided to rent it, a day or two or what. And that was really really cool. Yeah, and since this was really nowhere in the world, put it that way, it was a place called Bay Trinity. And you'd come back with your trout, you'd clean up the trout usually, and you'd go to certain little, well, actually, I think it was private homes, but they were officially little businesses. And all that they had, really, the business was they had bait and they had freezers. So you'd get your fish ready, you kept what you wanted to have to eat, and then they would freeze them for you. And we'd have our Coleman freezers where we would basically, you knew when you were going home, you'd load it with ice, put the frozen fish, which was also ice, basically, in a way, in those, and drive home and buy ice along the way, just to keep the frozen fish frozen. Yeah, it was really good. It was really a lot of fun. Yeah, we went to, like I say, different parts of the Canada like that. Mostly Ontario and, like I say, Eastern Canada camping. It was good. Yeah, lot of fun. Yeah. So those were things that were like, vacations for us, camping. Yeah. This came back, like I say, because my son-in-law, my son and daughter-in-law, which are in the camping car. This is luxury camping. I mean, we never knew anything like that. But well, I say luxury because you got an actual good mattress. I mean, we had in the camping car from my dad. It was one of those foam things, and it was not a great mattress, but you know, it was okay. My wife and I, we didn't live that far away from the campground, so we were able to go um, every now and then over to the campground if we did have a few days off. It was, like I say, a good time to go fishing and just be together and have a fun time. Yeah, memories are something that's good. I mean, I could hear it in Dave's voice. He was talking about his grandma that was living in their place. And when I was a younger boy, it was the same actually. My grandmother was a widow, and the first few years that we had moved into our home in Sutton, Quebec, my grandmother lived with us before she moved into a smaller apartment, into an apartment where my uncle had two apartments in his house, so my grandma was able to move there. But for the first few years, my grandmother lived with us in a room where I'm trying to think how it was. Was my sister born yet when that happened? Must have been. Where was she? Because we didn't have that many bedrooms then. Um, yeah. Anyway, so my brother and I always shared a bedroom. Um, yeah. Actually, we always did. We never had our own bedroom. Just thinking about that. The first time I had my own room was when I had a room at university. Yeah, that was the first time. No, we always shared. And Mrs. DC, who was from from a large family. I mean, they were. My mother-in-law had 7 children. One died not very old, so there were 6. 3 girls, 3 boys. But the 3 girls, basically, they pretty much always shared bedrooms. It was kind of bunking, and yeah. Hmm. I hadn't thought about those things for a while. Yeah. Memories are good. You should bring them back every now and then because it does bring things that you like. Well, it also brings things you don't like, but it's good to bring those things back and see actually that there were times in your past, that you really cherish. And yeah, and as we're getting older, I think it's nice to talk about those things, even if it's for ourselves, and talk with others. And another thing is, if you do have children or grandchildren, share your memories with them. They will be very happy later on in life that you have shared things like that with them, that they know what your life was and what their parents was like. And I see I'm up to 10 minutes, so I'll be it. DC signing off. Take care, everybody. Have a good Sunday. Bye bye.